Good morning, good afternoon, and good night, and welcome to my first episode of the late night cool down. I've been kind of procrastinating creating the first episode because I've just been wanting things to be perfect all the time. And if it's not perfect or it's not going my way, I stress the fuck out and then I procrastinate. So I've been really trying to get out of that procrastination space in the recent weeks and months and do something when I want. Not when I want to do it, but when I know I need to start doing it. So, this first episode, I guess, will be an introductory into what the show is going to be about. Kind of a bit about your host, Kyle Antoine, me, and probably some random topics as well, because I don't like one thing about me is I hate continuity, meaning I don't like when things are stagnant or the same every single day, if you know what I mean. Obviously, I have my routine. I wake up at like 5 or 6 in the morning, step on the scale, weigh myself, drink my coffee black with 3 Splenda, and then go over my social media, check in with my AI, how we're doing, and then I'll either go for a morning walk or I'll hang out at the house for the morning, shower, and then go on a walk. Or if it's a busy day, I'm emailing people and, or organizing my social media, getting things in order for different things. Then I'll do a late night walk. But I always try and get a walk in every single day. At least my goal for each walk is to get at least 8,000 steps in minimum a day. One thing that helps me with that though, if you're starting your fitness journey and if you're overweight or not at your goal weight, which is low, which if your goal weight is lower than you are, then instead of thinking of it as an exercise, think of it as you're going to go explore this park near your area, or you're going to go instead of taking the bus or driving to the store. I'm going to walk to the store. Maybe I'll bus back depending on how far it is. Don't the way you frame it in your mind. Like for me, I love walks. I love cardio. Well, most cardio. So when I go on a walk, I'm excited to go on the walk 99% of the time. And I don't check my step count during the walk unless I've already been out for hours on end. Then I'll like, how much steps do I got now? So I'll go out excited for the walk and I'll just observe or look at like right now I'm in a park near a lake, so I'm kind of just enjoying. Like I walk there, I got my 8K steps in. I went to another park and then I came to this park, and I kind of just decided to start recording for the show now. So usually I would have my notes ready, my topics outlined for myself on paper, so I'm not rambling too much. But because this is the introductory episode, we're just gonna freestyle the podcast. So typically podcasts will go for at least 45 minutes to an hour, and then I could talk for hours. So I'll probably try and limit myself to a max time of an hour and a half, because I feel like anything past an hour and a half is just too much for one episode, and even an hour and a half is a lot. But this is meant to be listened if you're getting ready for work or you have a big day. You listen to the podcast while you're getting ready. If you're getting home from the gym and you want to wind down and just chill out and relax, listen to it late at night. It's called the Late Night Cool Down. So the name kind of implies that you listen to it late at night when you're ready to chill out and relax. But we're not just here to relax. We're here to talk about a whole variety of topics. We're not just sticking to, like, I'll talk about fitness and going to the gym and working out. Getting started at the gym, getting started on the walk, walking every day. What are your goals? How to achieve them? And so we go from fitness. We can also talk about pop culture, what's going on at the Grammys or the MTV Awards, or and then we can go talk about politics if we want. And I would like to stick to Canadian politics and my provincial politics, which is British Columbia, because that's where I live and that's what affects me and that's what I know and experience firsthand. If it's President Trump says something, I'm not even going to get into Trump right now, but it's going to be mainly focused on specifically politics, what's happening in British Columbia and in Canada and in the Metro Vancouver area, because that's where I live. So it wouldn't make sense necessarily to talk about the political climate in California or Texas or Illinois, so yeah. And then we'll also be talking about spirituality, religion, cultural. I'm mixed, Indigenous and white. My mom is white, my dad's Indigenous. So I can talk about my culture and what it's like growing up Indigenous and being Indigenous, because I look mainly Indigenous, like I'm a brown motherfucker. So so we can talk about that as well. And in terms of spirituality, we can talk about, there's just so much to go into. We can also talk about the universe, and, we can talk about drugs and psychedelics, and it's just very, so each episode, you're probably not going to, I'll put a release out, this upcoming week, we're going to be talking about, this subject and this subject, or we're going to have this guest on, and I want I call it my show. So my show is going to feature local artists in and around Vancouver City, and I really want my show to be a platform for these artists. I want to be a central social media space where I can bring guests onto my show and, promote their work and talk about their journey and experience leading up to the point they are in their life right now. And we can also talk about business and how to manage your business, how to start a business, how to start a social media, how to gain a following, how to get interactions and engagement on your posts and your reels and your TikToks and your whatever. And yeah, it'll be a lot of fun. I'm aiming to release an episode a week, perhaps bi-weekly. It really will depend on the quality of the episode, because I don't want to release half-assed episodes, kind of like this one's kind of half-assed, but that's okay, because this is going to probably be the first episode. So if you're listening to this, I listened to it back and have decided it's good enough for the first episode. Because it's just, a chill. This is introductory, like I've been saying. So that's kind of what the show is about, what I'm going to be focusing on. I'm not a political analyst. I'm not Wall Street. I'm not, six-pack and, muscle junkie. Yet, not yet, but I will be getting there. And as you listen to the podcast over the upcoming years, you'll be able to follow me on this journey through the podcast and through my social medias. So my company and business is called The Late Night Cool Down, and it's right now it's just podcasts, but we will be at some point releasing some apparel items, a clothing line. It's going to be streetwear, and it's going to look it's going to be high quality sweaters, and it's going to be sweaters first, I would say. And it's going to have the logo, and we're going to have different styles of logo and variations of the hoodie, and it's going to be locally produced and printed as much as I can, because, support Canada, Canadian economy, and Canadian business. Yeah. And then you can also sign up for our newsletter. So when I do end up dropping my brand of clothing, it'll be if you sign up for my newsletter, you'll be the first people to know about it. And for my first drop, it's going to be a limited edition. So I'll probably only make 50 sweaters in total. And then after that point, I'll make a custom design and logo designed for my logo. And it'll be a one-time drop for the first 50 people who want them. And yeah, so also on the newsletter, you'll be able to see, hey, it'll be a weekly thing, so it'll probably release every Monday, announcing what's happening for the next week. I just dropped my phone. I was like, oh my god, did I just fucking destroy my phone? No, we're good. So yeah, to sum it up, the newsletter will announce merch drops. You'll be the first to know about any. I don't want to call it merch, because merch sounds like it's a money grab. It's not a money grab. It is the beginning of my clothing brand, my brand of clothing. So you'll also be able to receive weekly updates about the show. So if I have a guest appearing, it'll appear there first in the newsletter, and then I'll announce it on the Late Night Cool Down social media accounts. So on my Instagram for the podcast, you can click a link tree and it'll give you access to all of the social media accounts associated and managed by my company. So for now, like I was saying, it's just for the show, but my long-term goal for the show and for the business is to develop it into a multimedia company. So I eventually want to sign talent that are local to Metro Vancouver, and they can also have their own show on the Late Night Cool Down. And so we would manage and fund these creators for the show. And then we'll also be developing it into a clothing brand as well. But yeah, that pretty much sums up what the show is about, what my company is aiming to achieve. Not hopefully, but we'll be developing it into something a lot bigger than just a show. But yeah, your average podcast episode that you'll listen to from me, it'll probably be about my journey, my fitness journey, talking about philosophical and spiritual concepts, theories, ideas. We can also talk about science as well. And so before each episode, let's say we do one about space or black hole, I'll compile all of the latest research and evidence and theories regarding, quantum mechanics or how black holes develop or like what they actually are. And I'll compile it all into my notes on paper, and so I'll have that in front of me while I'm recording, and we'll just go through it, and then we can expand upon our thoughts regarding the matter of whatever we're talking about. And it's good to have notes, I find, because I can you have your paragraph that you say, like I say a paragraph of whatever, and then you hit a wall while you're waiting to think of your next thought, and it creates an awkward kind of break, and that has already happened a few times, so that's what is. But yeah, I'm really excited to share my journey, and it's going to be fun. It's going to be a relaxing time during the podcast episodes that are coming up, and when you see this, I will hopefully have 5 episodes released alongside this one. But yeah, thank you for listening to my first episode, and I hope you enjoy the upcoming ones. This was the Late Night Cool Down. Enjoy yourself. Have a good night, good afternoon, or good morning. Don't just live the day, experience the day, or do something that you've never done before or haven't done for in a long time. Just mix it up. Say hello to a grandma on the street. Tell her you like her hair. Do something, because life is happening with or without you, with or without your participation. You live one life within one day at a time. You don't want to spend it I forgot my Google Maps was on, and I have it so like when my phone's in my pocket counting my steps, I don't have to continuously pull my phone out. So I have it so where the Google Maps person or AI or voice chat or whatever will be like, you will arrive in 10 minutes or turn right at this road. And it was just speaking to me, and I forgot I had it on. I was like, hello. But yeah, one life in one day. Remember that. Your whole life is spent within this one day. You never lived yesterday. You never lived tomorrow. You're only living today. So conquer and make today the best today you can, and try to improve by 1%, 2%, 3%, and those will compound over time. It won't just act like if you improve by 1% each day of the year, you're not just going to improve 365%. Some days you're going to improve 0.1%, and that's okay. Sometimes you're going to improve negative 0.1% or negative 1%. You're going to go back a little bit. Other days you're going to improve by 5 or 10% or 20%. And that's my philosophy on life. It's not black and white. Certain things are black and white, but life itself is not black and white. it is a very beautiful spectrum, and we can only see through that prism of life by the angle of what we're looking. We can only see life through one perception at a time. Your perception as in like what you believe about life to be true. If you believe life is boring, guess what? You're going to live a very boring life. The most fun thing could happen to you. And if you see life as boring and you're like set on it, like life's boring, life's shit, the most wonderful thing could happen. And you would still think life's shit. We got to stop waiting for life to change. We got to stop waiting for life to change for us to feel better or different. We got to change ourselves or our perceptions about life, ourselves and others, to see that change or to see that difference. Life is what life is. There's a whole lot of beauty and there's a whole lot of ugly. But if you just focus on the ugly, that's all you're going to see is ugly. You're going to see through the prism of ugliness. And that's going to reflect or refract on every situation in your life and yourself and others. You're just going to see the shittiness everywhere. But if you turn the prism, if you angle it in a different way, you'll start seeing things you've never seen before. You'll gain a new perspective on life. And this doesn't always happen overnight or in the moment. But again, if you make these gradual shifts, major changes will eventually happen. And when we think of major changes, we often think that major events and stuff that we want to achieve or go through or experience is gonna happen in one big go. But in reality, we've likely achieved lots of things we wanted previously and barely, if at all, noticed that these changes occurred. For example, I saw this TikTok and it was like talking about this premise or concept where they said that me realizing that when I was 8 years old, I really wanted the iPhone. I would have done anything for the iPhone. And now I'm, 18, 19, 20, and now I got the iPhone. Like a younger me would have killed for this, literally. And when I saw that, I was like, wait, I have an iPhone now. I was like, this is something I desperately wanted, to the point where I dreamt about getting the iPhone 5C neon green color, because that's how much I wanted it. And now I got a phone that's like 1,000,000 times better, and I barely noticed. So this is why gratitude and reflection are very important for your mental health and for helping you be a bit more realistic about your goals or your achievements. Because sometimes we're too pessimistic towards ourselves. We think we didn't achieve enough, we didn't do enough, we haven't become enough. When in reality, just because someone doesn't see your effort, your work, your accomplishments, does not mean that they don't count. This is where self-confidence comes from, and self-esteem is recognizing those accomplishments for yourself. And maybe you haven't been working on yourself. Maybe you haven't hit the gym yet, or started the meditation, or started a social media brand, or the podcast, whatever it may be. And you have low self-esteem because of these things. You haven't achieved enough in your eyes. That's probably true. This is the real talk, okay? That's probably true, and you probably should feel a bit not pessimistic towards yourself, but be realistic. If you went out and did what you said you were going to do to yourself, you'd likely have more confidence and more self-esteem moving forward. If you think, hey, I want to start a podcast, or I want to post that picture to Instagram, but it's not what I usually post, or I want to rebrand myself, I don't relate to who I've been. I need to, make the shift. Do it, and you will thank yourself in the future. Because the one thing, well, there's many things, but the one thing that's worse than failure is never starting or trying. And if you never start, if you never try, and you never fail, you never achieve anything in life. And if you never achieve anything in life, you're a fucking loser who deserves to feel bad. And you have no right to complain if you choose every day not to do what you feel in your heart that you need to do. It's not too late. It's not over. Life is done when you die. So every day up until that point, whenever you die, whenever that may be, because we don't know, you could die tomorrow with having achieved nothing that sets your soul on fire. Maybe you work a 9 to 5, maybe you're on income assistance, maybe you're rich. Regardless, there's something that sets your soul on fire. You may have forgotten about it. It may be a childhood dream. You maybe want to become an actress or an actor, start the podcast, or create a business, or start a family, or get married, whatever it may be. If you're not actively working, even if it's by 0.1% towards that goal, then you are setting yourself up for failure and a miserable life, and you have no one else to blame but yourself. If you're an adult, when you're a child and you don't have full legal autonomy over yourself, your direction in your life, it's a bit different. But even then, you can still work to improve yourself. And I think a key takeaway from what I'm saying is not to change who you are at heart or at the deepest part of yourself, that fundamental core you, but there are things that you could do better. You may think, oh, I should get a gym membership, or maybe you do have a gym membership and you've been choosing or not. And what I mean by choosing, like, you're not choosing the life. When you do not actively decide to do something and you sit idle on your phone or wherever, you are actively choosing the thing you're doing in that moment. And if it's not something that you want to do in regards to the life you want to live, you are choosing failure. You are choosing depression. You are choosing anxiety and low self-worth. And we've probably heard this. If you're listening, you've probably heard this a lot. Have a goal of what you want to achieve. How are you going to get there? Keep that goal when you start, or if you've started, keep your goal in your vision, in your focus. But the things that are more important than your goal is how you get there. And it's getting there, period. So just do it, because we could die tomorrow. A rogue asteroid could hit the earth tomorrow and we could all die. And that would be the end of it. And you just never know. Maybe the thing that you're neglecting, or the things that you're scared to do, is the thing that's going to change your life. And you may not see immediate results. Good things don't come fast. You work toward it every single day. That's called discipline, and that's called resilience, and that's called being dedicated. And the greats of the world didn't just do it for one day or 1 hour and be done with it. They do it every day, and they continue to do it every day. Fucking the Google Maps voice keeps talking while I'm talking, and I'm like, shut up. I just turned the volume down. And yeah, so that's the real talk. That's the inspirational part. And that's what I want my podcast also to be that's going to be one of the core values, or the core things that we talk about, is helping you live the life that you want to live. Because I have met so many people who are, way later in life than I am. I'm only 20 years old. I'll meet, 50-year-olds and, elders who, not every single one I've met, obviously, but the majority of them are living a life that they're not satisfied with. They, when they were younger, didn't choose to go after the life that they wanted to live. They did what their parents wanted them to do, or their friends, what they chose to do, what their friends were doing, or what society expects of them. And I'm not saying education, I'm not the kind of person to say education is a waste of time. I definitely used to believe that, but that belief has probably held me back in ways that I haven't fully realized yet. Because I am going back to finish my schooling and then go on to enjoy a university career for the next few years, but when I'm done schooling, I'll probably realize a lot of shit that I missed out on, and all of the ways that not respecting the education that was there for me in terms of actual schooling, how that held me back in life. Don't believe the people these online podcasters who say education is a waste of time. Elon Musk dropped out of Harvard or wherever. This billionaire dropped out. Because a lot of these people, if they were able to get into these prestigious institutions in the first place, they're already pretty goddamn smart. And also, those people are like the 0.001% who have managed to do that. If someone could just drop out and become a billionaire, everyone would be a billionaire. It's not easy, and it takes dedication on a whole nother level than what you typically see in high school or college and university dropouts. And also, they already had businesses. Many of these billionaires already had successful businesses before they dropped out, so it made more sense to drop out and just focus solely on the business that was making them hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars already. Because that's why you go to school, is just so you can get a nice education and career to make all of this money. But if you're already making it, it might make more sense to drop out at that point. You're already doing it, so why are you wasting 12 hours a day minimum on your studies, going to class, and whatever research and homework you got to prepare, when you could be focusing all of that time into your business and making way more money than you would otherwise, So I believe education, if you're not already rich, you don't come from a rich family, you got nobody and nothing, education is your family now. Education is your ticket out of poverty. If you can find a way to get educated, really educated, not just finish high school, actual education, that is your ticket out of poverty. There's nothing else that'll take you out of poverty unless you happen to win the lottery, which is like a 1 out of a billion chance of doing. So basically, it's never going to happen. You got to stop. If this is you, you need to stop living in La La Land and come to terms with, if you don't make it happen, it's not going to happen. You're not, 99 times out of 100, or 99.99% out of that 0.1%, you're not going to you're not going to win the lottery. You're not going to just think of a business idea and execute it and it's going to be successful. These things may happen a lot, but everything may happen, that asteroid may hit the earth and wipe out everything. So don't base your life on chance. Base your life on skill, education, and discipline, and you'll be set for life. But if you are barely making ends meet, you don't come from a rich family, you don't have a sugar daddy and being a sugar baby is no way to live anyways, but you get what I'm saying, then education is your ticket out of the poverty cycle. And if and when you become a parent, if you're young listening, parents who are educated at a university level have kids who are more likely than not to also attend university, effectively stopping the poverty cycle in its tracks. My parents didn't go to university. My grandma who raised me didn't go to university. My siblings didn't go to university growing up. One of my sisters, I got 2 sisters and 1 brother. One of my sisters did do some college level classes for a program certification, so we're getting there. I dropped out of high school, and also I didn't really know anyone older who went on to go to a university, finish their studies, and get a career. I don't really know anyone personally, so I am going to university, and whenever whenever I do have kids, they'll be going to university as well. Fingers crossed they don't take the route I did in life. But it effectively ends the poverty cycle. You yourself going to university, having kids, and they go to university, and their kids are more likely to go to university. And people who go to university tend to look at their job more as a career rather than just a way to make ends meet. So that's your ticket out. It's not going to just fall in your lap. Financial constraints are obviously a major factor in a lot of people's lives who are in the poverty cycle. Also, if you make under 30 grand or 40 grand a year, probably even higher, if you make under 40 grand a year, you're effectively in living below the poverty line. I think actually it's 20 grand to be fair. But see, this is why we need notes. I'll look it up. But most people are barely getting by on 50 grand in a major metropolitan area like Metro Vancouver. So if someone's trying to survive on 20 grand a year, good luck. You're going to need roommates. You're going to need, everything. So my point being, get educated. Find different resources to use that can help fund your education and get it done. And once you got that degree, once you're making that money, and obviously, people say, most people who get degrees can't find work. A few things I would say to that. Number one being, having a degree is going to increase your chances to get a job by almost 100% compared to if you didn't have the degree. And second, don't get a stupid fucking degree. If you're not, if you don't come from money, don't get a stupid degree. Hate to say it, but that's real talk. You can't get a stupid degree. I won't name specific degrees, but in your head, you probably already thought of a few. Don't get those ones. Find something that you kind of enjoy or enjoy the most. I'm not saying money is the end-all be-all in life, because it's definitely not. But it's going to make life a million times easier. When you can afford a car and your own place to stay, without roommates. If you want roommates, fine. But if you don't want roommates and you're able to afford it, if you're able to afford the lifestyle that you want to live, life becomes a million times better. And once you have a solid baseline for yourself in regards to your finances, that's when you start looking more deeply at other things you want to do in this lifetime, like traveling. You can't travel on a 9-to-5 budget. Sorry, not sorry, you can't. Unless you're spreading yourself thin every month or going into credit card debt or pulling out loans at Money Mart, which, by the way, if you're listening and you're young and you're thinking about pulling out a loan, do not pull out a loan. Do not, especially from Money Mart. If you need a credit card, make sure you can pay that credit card at least the minimum every single month. Otherwise, by the time you get out of whatever situation you're in, and hopefully you do, through discipline, education, you're going to be screwed for it. If you want to take a loan out of a car, if you don't want to drop a whole 50 grand, 20, 30 grand on a car, and you want to pay it monthly or bi-weekly, you're able to do that. If you want to get a mortgage, you don't want to fuck yourself over before you even get the chance to do it, right? So, and this is coming from someone who is in debt, not by a gross amount, but a good chunk of change I owe, and I am praying that this doesn't affect my future goals, because if you're sometimes your credit's so bad they don't even want your cash, they want nothing to do with you. So Money Mart and all of these other quick loan places, those are big no's. Do not do it. It sounds tempting. Get $500 cash or only $20. Well, guess what? You're going to get interest out the ass. And if you don't pay it off, there's people who took out, let's say they took out a $500 loan on whatever amount of interest. I got to look at the numbers, but I'm not going to specify until I see the numbers. You get a $500 loan, you pay $20 for it. You don't pay it off for 5 years. That loan can balloon to like 10 grand. Now you're out 10 grand and $20 for $500. Like that's just bad math. I am now walking home, so So yeah, those are my big things. Big life advice right now. But life, what is it? What's the right word? Prices are not going to go down, at least not for decades. Wages, at least in BC and in Canada, are on track to keep up with inflation. But that's the bare minimum. If you keyword want to get out of the poverty cycle in the 9 to 5, I'm not saying you gotta be a millionaire by 20 years old or whatever age, or you gotta be this by the time you're that. But what I am saying is, instead of waiting for prices to go down and the world to change over, start improving yourself. Start finding ways to make more money that are legal money, and things that safeguard and set up your future, so you're eventually in a position where no matter what happens, you're going to be okay. You're going to be able to put food on your table and have a house or a roof over your head, because too many people are waiting for prices to go down, and they're most likely not going to go down for decades, if at all. So the only way to make sure you don't drown is to upgrade your life with education, with money, obviously. We're almost at the 1 hour mark. We got 11 minutes left. Till we hit the 1 hour mark, I'm almost home.
Traveling west.
It's probably really loud in the microphone. I gotta raise my voice a bit. Where's my vape? Oh no. Did I lose my vape?
Wait.
I lost my vape. I gotta go back. God damn it, it's probably near the bench. Also, if you're younger listening, do not start vaping or smoking cigarettes. And I'll add in, don't try any drugs or alcohol, because the risk benefit is out of hand. But specifically regarding nicotine, vaping and smoking cigarettes, it'll be the thing that eventually kills you, and it's almost guaranteed to kill you. And the reason why I'm saying that is because I'm literally like a minute away from my house, and I'm walking back like 10 minutes to where I was sitting just to grab my vape, because I know I'm gonna need it later. Well, I need it right now, actually. But and it just drains your money. I've probably spent several thousands of dollars on vapes alone, not including cigarettes. Cigarettes are probably a bit less, because cigarettes are just so easily available. You don't got to buy cigarettes all the time. But for one vape, depending on where you go, it's like a minimum $40 for one that will last. Like the brand I use can last me up to a month if I am careful with how often I'm hitting it. But it could just as easily last a week, maybe two, if I'm not careful or mindful of it. And I typically pay $40, $50 depending on the store. So that's like a guaranteed $50 just gone from my account. Because obviously I gotta get the new vape every month. Nicotine, if you're addicted, it's not the worst addiction in the world. There are other addictions that you could have or develop that are a million times worse. But the addiction itself is probably one of the most hardcore in terms of your inability to stop on your own free will. Because some people do successfully quit. I heard there's a medication that's available that you can take, and you take it every day for however long. And I've met someone who's done it, and they just don't crave it anymore. There's also people who've done hypnosis for their nicotine addiction, and like Doja Cat, for example, did hypnosis, and she says it works pretty well. So thankfully there are some options, but when I eventually do force myself to quit, because I will have to eventually force myself to quit, because if I continue and just never stop, I'm gonna pop a lung or develop chronic lung conditions, or God knows what the real long-term effects of vaping is. Because I used to smoke cigarettes. That was like my main nicotine source. Switched over to vaping mostly because the head rush is better. So, sometimes I do need a cigarette. Like I could just go for a cigarette right now. I just but I'm just like glorifying a nicotine addiction at the end of my big "don't get addicted" speech. But it's nasty, and if you haven't started, don't start. Like, talk to anyone who vapes or smokes cigarettes and ask them if you should start smoking or vaping, and they'll 99% of the time tell you no, do not start. Because once you start, it's incredibly difficult to stop. It's like the addiction is like a train. Like once you get it going, it's going to take a long time to slow down and to actually stop. And I could go into all of the health risks and all the chemicals that are in there. At least in Canada, we have like federally mandated guidelines for companies that produce vapes and vape juice, or specifically vape juice, saying like you cannot add these ingredients. For example, vitamin E. Vitamin E, if I remember correctly, is very good for your skin, but when inhaled, it's incredibly toxic. And that's kind of when we've seen this mini epidemic of teenagers going to the hospital due to vaping. My vape's not here. Oh my god, I'm back at the bench where I started the podcast episode. And guess where I found it? In my sweater pocket. I checked my sweatpants, I checked my coat, but I forgot to check my sweater. And I just walked 5 minutes back to where I was sitting on this bench for basically no reason. But hey, maybe it's the universe's way of saying, finish the podcast in a proper way. I need a fucking vape it after that, holy. Vaping's really bad, guys. You wouldn't like it. As I say as I'm hitting my vape, I'm just completely blissed out. But I won't lie and say that vaping or smoking a cigarette isn't nice. Sometimes, like, I'm not gonna, tell people like you won't like it, because if you're addicted to nicotine, you're gonna like nicotine and the feeling. Like having your coffee and morning cigarette in the morning, I would say is one of the top 10 human experiences you can have in this lifetime. Cigarettes after sex is definitely up there in the top 10 as well. But do not start, because when you think of an actual good reason not to start. If you have a heart condition, you're more likely to have, heart risk associated with your heart, even with smoke, even if without prior heart conditions, you are at a higher risk of like heart attack and you can even develop asthma. I'm built different though, so I haven't yet. I've been smoking since I was 9 years old, so I've been addicted for 11 years as of this recording. And I think it was a little while ago, but I actually like kind of sat and reflected and pondered on that fact of how young I was when I got addicted to nicotine. And I'm like, holy shit, because like when you're 9 years old, you don't realize how young you are. But like when you grow up and you're 20 years old and you look at a 9-year-old, you're like, holy fuck, like that was me, but I was smoking cigarettes at the park with my best friend at the time. And that's crazy. But the reason why I started smoking and eventually getting addicted to nicotine like fully is even more crazy and stupid. And it was because I wanted to show my grandma, who raised me, that it was easy to quit nicotine. And here I am 11 years later, still not proving my point. But I'm not for dissing people who smoke cigarettes or vaping, because that's such a vibe killer. When I want a cigarette and someone's like, ew, you're smoking a cigarette, I just want to tell them to get the fuck away from me and to not talk to me. Because like maybe not like that aggressive in IRL, but like that's the vibe I get when someone tells me that. Because it's like, mind your business, dude. These are my lungs, my choice, okay? Yes, I'm pro-choice. Ally, feminist icon, Kyle Antoine. Just kidding. That's like the bare minimum of being a decent human being. Is believing other people have the right to their own autonomy and what to do with themselves. Like basic levels of human empathy. But yeah, like let me have my cigarette, let me hit my vape, because if I don't, I'm gonna be in a mood, and it's gonna take. If it's a cigarette, it's gonna take me 3 minutes, 5 minutes max. If it's my vape, a couple of hits, I'm good for the next 30 minutes. That sounds horrible. I'm good for the next 30 minutes, and then I gotta go back out and hit my device. Otherwise, I start getting bitchy, and I'm gonna lash out, and I'm gonna do things extra loudly to prove that I'm angry. I'm gonna get irritated if I don't have my little sucky thing. So back away. But like that's the reality of it, and which is like insane. I need to hit my sucky thing, otherwise I'm gonna get irritated, and I'm not gonna be having a good time. So just let me do it, and if you don't like it, you can fuck right off. Oh my god. So if you don't want to sound like me and my fellow nicotine addicts, don't start. If you don't mind risking your lungs and health and overall general well-being, you don't care about that, start. I'm not gonna police what you do. I'm just my very high recommendation. If you want to live a good, long, healthy life, or at least give you the best chance at being able to live a good, healthy, long life, don't start. And if that doesn't convince you, it also fucks with your skin. It breaks down the nicotine, breaks down the collagen in your skin, making you look older, maybe even more droopier. You may not be able to tell while you're young, but once you get older, you compare a cigarette. Like when you think of an old, like let's say when you think of a 50-year-old cigarette smoker, what do you picture in your head? You probably are thinking of like an old man with gray hair and wrinkles who looks tired, right? With like bags under the eyes, smells like coffee and cigarettes. But when you think of someone, let's say you think of a 50-year-old who has a good job, a good education, has a good family life, doesn't smoke, doesn't drink, or maybe has the occasional drink with the dinner. Like you think of the picture that appears in your mind is a lot different. Your stamina, if you're into sports, your stamina is not going to be what it could be by a long shot. You're going to get out of breath quicker. You're going to not be able to recover as fast as you should be able to after a workout, after a run. Like the benefit of nicotine, just in a simple personal in the moment thing, quick release, quick reset. Neurologically, it shows that nicotine is actually really good for your brain. The chemical itself, not the inhalation of smoke and vapor. But you can get similar benefits from caffeine and creatine. Creatine is it's going to take a bit longer, like a week, at least a week, up to a month, for it to actually start seeing slightly noticeable benefits to your brain and your body. I just heard, I don't know if you guys heard that as well, but I just heard like a woo woo. Then like someone yelling, woo woo. So I'm getting the fuck out of here because whoever makes that noise and at 10 at night in the forest on a trail most likely isn't someone you want to meet. And if it's not a human being and it's some cryptid, I don't want to meet it either. And yeah, so then let's go down the cons. What's the negative side of nicotine and cigarettes? And cigarettes and vaping are very similar in terms of the harm that it causes to your lungs and body and mind. But cigarettes chemically may be worse for you because it has so many different chemicals in it. And vape juice, at least in Canada, it's usually vegetable glycerin, and I forget the other thing, but it's two main ingredients for the base of the juice: nicotine salts and flavoring, and that's it. It like tells you on the bottle. But if, for example, if you're not of age in your local area, so in BC it's 19, in Alberta it's 18, down in the States 21, you're not able to buy good quality as you can get vape juice that's kind of certified and trusted brand, who's not going to put weird chemicals into your vape juice, and you have to buy vape juice from a sketchy website or a sketchy person, or even attempt to make it on your own, then vaping is worse by a long shot in that scenario. Because let's say it takes about 50 years at like minimum, or 50 years max to see, it's more likely 20 years of like full on smoking for that to start seeing like drastic side effects of smoking. And then it takes till you're like 60, 70, 80 to develop cancer. Typically, I may be completely wrong, not completely wrong, but I may be slightly wrong on those numbers, but you typically see old people dying of cancer because of smoking. You see less of that in young people, of cancer or smoking related cancer, because it takes a while for that cancer and or those chemicals to start causing that cancer that will put you at immediate risk of dying. Vaping, on the other hand, since it became popularized in like 2016, 2017, and then the technology for vapes and disposable vapes became a lot better and more accessible to people. Just in that first 3-4 years, we saw a drastic increase of teenagers being sent to the hospital because of a popped lung, popcorn lung, which is when your lungs get so hard like you can't breathe. We've seen also a teenager have to get a lung transplant. I'm not sure if he survived. I think he did, but he was not that old. And let's just say he was 18 at the time. No 18-year-old should be getting a lung transplant from something that was completely preventable. Obviously, there's special circumstances where a young person will need a transplant. But from vaping, like, that is very scary to think about how someone so young was so close to dying because they were vaping, probably, I don't know the specifics, but probably vaping something that wasn't meant to be inhaled, like vitamin E, which from it's not the most current research that I've read. I haven't done research, is what I mean, in a while specifically on this. But from what I have read in the past, vitamin E was the main ingredient, and seen it in cases where people were hospitalized due to vaping. And so even just having to explain the risk side, like, you kind of got to be specific, because I've been vaping regularly for like the last year, and aside from like occasional shortness of breath, and initially when I picked it up again, not being able to walk upstairs without getting completely winded because I couldn't inhale all the way. Other than those two main things, like I've been like completely fine vaping. I haven't noticed as of yet any major consequences to the vaping. For smoking cigarettes, basically the same thing that I've found in my own experience, but with one difference I will say is with vaping, I usually cough up lots of like clear sticky liquid, which could be like vape juice, but it could also be my body's reaction to vaping so much is to try and coat my lungs with something that'll like ease the stress that I'm putting on them. And then with cigarettes, it's just like coughing up like tar buildup. Both are not fun. Not worse, but it's just annoying and kind of gross to deal with. And yeah, it's also something that you like. If someone wants to quit, they have to really want it. Because I've tried quitting nicotine a handful of times, and every single attempt was unsuccessful. So some people may try and quit, not be successful, and then give up completely, or at least for a long time. Okay, I got my vape, phone, and wallet. I'm almost home, so this is the end of the Late Night Cool Down episode 1. Thank you for listening and coming with me through this first episode. It's been fun, and I'll catch you on the next episode. Thank you. Have a good night, good day, or good morning.